We are to be one in mind, body, and spirit. That is how he created us. We are honoring him when we take care of our body that he gifted us with. It is a temple in which we should treat with respect and honor.
Hey there, I'm Victoria, a certified Christian life coach, author, motivational speaker, and university educator, and I am obsessed with helping you navigate through life's ups and downs so that you can live day by day in God's peace despite the many external demands on your time and energy. The Choose to Think Inspirational podcast is about the delicate dance between God transforming you from the inside out and your personal responsibility for change, maturity, and refinement as a Christ follower. On the show, I'll help you connect the dots between your faith and your life in practical, meaningful ways while giving God room to do what only He can do, and so that you can shine your light for Christ and be better equipped to serve your family and help others around you. You can change every area of your life, one thought at a time. Welcome back to the Choose to Think Inspirational podcast, Brain Changer. Let's dive in. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Choose to Think Inspirational podcast. On the show today, we have Coach Paula Tobey. She is a certified life and health transformation coach, speaker, author, and leader. More than that, she's a collaborator, challenging and motivating women to find the healthiest, best version of themselves. She works with clients and groups by leading challenges and boot camps on nutrition and movement, and she also helps those who need one-on-one guidance with food and health issues. Coach Paula helps people solve the problem of chronic health conditions, and that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about on the show today, that have not been fixed with a traditional doctor, such as food sensitivity testing for those with autoimmune, diabetes, non-genetic cancers, etc. She understands that people living with these conditions are tired, frustrated, scared, and overwhelmed, and that most doctors do not take the time or even understand how to solve these gut-related problems. You know, this is a great time of the year to be airing this episode because many of you may be on a real bandwagon right now. You're like, I just got through the holidays, and now I really want to kind of take back the reins on my own physical and emotional health, spiritual health. There, we talk about the 5 different areas that she actually promotes in her book, which is called Phenomenal Mom, and then 5 steps to a healthier life. So those 5 issues we talk about in the show toward the end of the interview, so you'll want to stay tuned to that. But the bulk of our conversation was really about gut health and brain health and the connection between the two of them. It's just fascinating to me that what you eat matters so much. It matters what we consume. Spiritually, it matters what we consume, right? What we're looking at, what we're listening to. And physically, it matters what we consume, what we're literally putting into our mouths. So her story is one that should really give you a charge, give you a little bit of energy and desire, and maybe even motivation to take that next step toward optimal physical and emotional health and well-being. So without further ado, here is Coach Paula. Well, welcome, Paula, to the Choose to Think podcast. We're so happy that you're here.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, this is a topic that I absolutely love to discuss. A lot of times the returning listeners or viewers on YouTube, they know that we talk a lot about our thoughts, taking thoughts captive, the whole emotions, our mind, all of that. And today we get to talk about something that's related in a way, but is so fascinating to me. It's the brain-gut connection. And I can't wait to kind of unpack some of that, because one of the things that you teach about and you coach about would be actually understanding how your gut health impacts or affects your mental health. So let's just start there and share with the audience what you would like them to know about that connection.
Sure. So I started actually researching it in 2017. My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And if you know anything about that disease, it is deadly. It is one of the one of the main deadliest ones. It's mostly because when it gets into the pancreas, it is too late to operate, and many organs have been affected by that point. And the main reason why it's scary is because the quote unquote symptoms are considered kind of normal. They are things like diabetes, high blood pressure, depression, pain, GI pain, things like IBS, and
Hmm.
doctors often write it off. And so I started doing a lot of research. I already had started in 2010 when my own health issues started becoming a problem. And I had to go gluten free, corn free, spinach free, all kinds of things that are healthy, oats. There was a number of things I couldn't have. Coffee, they all
Yeah.
contributed to chronic migraines, joint pain, inflammation, and IBS. And all of those things in combination made it very difficult for me to continue teaching. I was a kindergarten teacher. I loved it. It did not love me until I got myself healthy. And what that meant was removing problematic foods. And once I did that, my problems pretty much immediately went away. The inflammation subsided, and I was able to lead a more happy, healthy life. I was a better mom to my kids. I was able to function normally. I started teaching back again part time. Yeah. So that's when all of my research began. However, it took a huge turn in 2017 when my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And I realized that almost all of the things were actually related, and it all had to do with gut health. And that's actually where it started. It's where my problems started, it's where her problems started. And then I learned that genetically, that's where a lot of families have issue. So I already was working with clients, let's say, that have celiac disease. Well, that they have known is hereditary. They haven't made the link and connection to the masses about other things. And pancreatic cancer essentially is one of those. It also is a gene that you can inherit as well. There are two versions of it. You can get it from lifestyle and genetics through poor health and lifestyle that way, or an actual gene, kind of like the gene for Down syndrome. It's a gene mutation. Upon all of that research, when I got down to the root of it, it was all gut health. In retrospect, what I learned was that, like myself, when I changed my health, I could think more clearly. I had a much better attitude. I was, vibrant and lively again. Yes, I lost a little bit of weight. My weight wasn't really ever a huge factor for me, but it was essentially inflammation, just small amounts. But once that went down, and I was able to think more clearly, a lot of the symptoms that I had had really significantly subsided. That's really what started my journey, and it had to do with research. And as a teacher, I was already interested in learning and all of that.
Sure.
However, it just became a non-negotiable for me at that time. And it consumed me, but I realized that I had to turn my pain into purpose. And so therefore
Mhm.
I needed to educate others. So that's where we are now.
What a story. I so admire you for kind of saying, okay, this is the issue. And nowadays, thank goodness, we can research relatively easily, even
Yes.
peer-reviewed research. It's available at our fingertips. And
Yes.
you've transferred that into kind of saying, by golly, I will do something about this. I was recently diagnosed with osteoporosis, which just blew my mind because I'm very healthy and I exercise a lot. I do a lot of things, quote unquote, right. However,
Mhm.
my diet was lacking and I did not want to take the medicines. I kind of just said no to that. So my doctor and I worked out a plan. I radically changed my diet, and I know without a shadow of a doubt that my bones they're growing, they're stronger than ever. And that next DEXA scan that I have is going to show such improvement. I have no
It
doubt.
will.
And
It
I have no
absolutely will.
doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm very excited about that because that was not terribly difficult changes for me to make. It was
Mhm,
relatively easy for me to make
mhm.
these changes. There's hope in that case. But let's go
Yes.
back then to
Mhm.
gut health. What does that
Yes.
even mean? What is gut health?
It's really kind of tricky yet simple at the same time. So essentially, what it is eating foods and eliminating a lot of toxins. What that does is help keep the gut healthy. And how the gut stays healthy or how it lives in a healthy environment is microbes, is actually
Right.
trillions and trillions of bacterial microbes that live in our gut. And we need a healthy balance of both good bacteria and bad bacteria. And often, when people are on a lot of drugs, and I mean pharmaceutical drugs, I don't mean
Right.
off the
Gotcha.
counter.
Right.
um, when we are on things to help, prevent viruses and all that kind of stuff, they actually suppress the gut microbes and they kill off the bad bacteria. And what that does is create a in in equal amount of healthy bacteria. You need more of an even amount. And so if you're taking antibiotics and not supplementing with probiotics, then you have that uneven amount.
Mhm.
And what that does is cause inflammation, and it causes other issues to start spinning off because of the imbalance in the microbiome. And the gut, the microbiome, is meant for, like I said, all of this bacteria to thrive and grow. And it is our job to get vitamins and minerals and nutrients from our foods and supplements because our foods today do not contain enough. So we really need supplementation to help keep that in check and in balance. And so when we do supplement and when we do eat a good amount of vitamins and minerals and all of the other things that come in vegetables, fruits and vegetables predominantly, then we are much better off in setting our gut up to be in a healthy state. So that in a nutshell is what it is.
So good and easy to understand. And we
Yeah.
hear a lot nowadays about prebiotics and probiotics. What is
Mhm.
the difference between the two?
So pre is kind of a like it sounds, a beforehand getting the body ready, and so it helps kind of flush some of the toxins out early on. They and the forms that that comes in sometimes are things that you see over the counter, like Benefiber. That is a prebiotic, and it helps. You can put that in things like coffee or water or whatever, and it just helps kind of flush things around and get it moving, right? So it kind of does the pre work, and then the probiotic comes in and does more of like the healing aspect, and it does more of the fortifying. So all of these little, if you think of like these little fingers or like little grasses that are growing in your gut, it helps to strengthen those.
Mhm.
And then so do the vitamins and minerals and stuff in our foods. There are many over the counter ones that are essential. What you would want to look for in probiotics are things that have a high, and they use the word billion, high CFU number. And so something like 5 billion CFUs is kind of like a mandatory, like everybody should be at least getting 5 billion CFUs. Now, the higher the number, basically, the more you need to repair the gut. So when I was at my sickest in 2010, I needed 100 billion CFUs in a probiotic. So I had to specially order this special kind of probiotic. And over time, as my gut healed, I was able to decrease the number of CFUs, by the billion, and then just get it in a healthier state.
What are some common sources of probiotics? I mean, I'm thinking of things
In our
like,
foods.
yeah, like I mean, is yogurt and kombucha
Mhm.
and all of
Yes.
those sorts of
Yes.
things. Yeah.
Those are fabulous. Yes. Spinach and broccoli are very high also.
Hmm.
So in the things that we are eating, that which is why I said the foods that we eat are almost enough, but when we also supplement with vitamins, you know, then that adds just a little bit more. So that's why we actually need it, because our food has been modified over time and not always organically grown in the best environment. So I live in Houston, Texas. We had a drought this last year, and a lot of plants and things died, right? So if I was trying to grow a garden to sell my crops, I would not have great things to sell right now, because that's what we got, right? Um, and if I had been able to enrich my garden with all of this great soil and all of this good stuff, crops would have done better, right? So that's what we're kind of forced to do. However, I think that over time, regulations and all of that stuff and the soil itself has changed. So therefore, we're not getting what used to be a long time ago as far as the nutrients out of our food, which is one of the main reasons why they say we need to supplement.
It's high time to elevate your love and faith with Pickleball Passion, a marriage devotional. Strengthen your connection on and off the court in just 21 days. Each day's devotion guides you to a deeper, more fulfilling marriage and offers you tips and tricks while playing pickleball together, whether you're a seasoned pickleball enthusiast or just starting out. This devotional is your ticket to a joyful journey of love and faith. Order now and make 2024 the year your relationship thrives and you level up your game.
Let's kind of peel this back just a little bit. And
Yeah.
if we could give our audience, like, these are the 5 things that you need to do to
Hmm.
have a healthy gut. Because if you have a healthy gut, you're going to have a healthy brain. It's so
Yes.
deeply connected. And we'll get into some of the mind
Yes.
connection here in a moment. But
Yes.
what might be, Paula, just 5 must-dos? And it could be something you must stop taking, something you
Mhm.
must, or ingesting, and something you must then take or consume. And you've
Yes.
given a few of those,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
how would you guide us in that?
Absolutely. So I would start must do water. Water is the ultimate flusher outer.
Right here.
Yes,
I've
ma'am.
got it.
Yes,
Hmm.
that's right. I have multiple going. These are my home ones, and then I have those that I take on the road.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
Yes. And I have to say that what most people don't realize is how much is really needed. So, the best number to go by, they used to say 8 glasses or whatever. The best number to go by is half your body weight in ounces. So, if you weigh 200 pounds, you need 100 ounces of water. And some refrigerators today, like mine actually does, count the number so I can fill certain glasses and know how much I'm getting. Although you can also on your Amazon order, it has a lot of the numbers on them, but you can order them and keep track. But definitely drinking enough water is the first thing. The second thing would be to reduce sugar and carbohydrates. So those two go hand in hand. Carbohydrates contain sugar, and sugar and carbohydrate, an overabundance of the two. For some people, they feel it in their low back. That's very, very common as you get older. Neck pain, all that kind of stuff as well. Where it starts to get to be kind of strange is when it's more odd places that you wouldn't normally think of to have pain. And that's sometimes an indicator. So something that wouldn't normally be bothersome, like in your hip or in your elbow, the tennis elbow, stuff like that, just means that there's probably more inflammation going on. So
Mm.
other ways to get rid of the inflammation is to reduce sugar, drink more water.
Can I just pause on that too
Yes,
here,
yes.
Paula, about the
Yes.
sugar?
Uh-huh.
What sugar, quote, substitutes would we use? Are we using monk fruit, the sugar alcohols?
Mhm.
What are good selections in your opinion?
Sure. So, plant-based sugars, like you said, monk fruit is good. Stevia is a good product that comes both in powder and liquid form. I particularly like to use stevia drops, and so if I want to have like lemonade, I make my own lemonade with lemon water, and then a drop of stevia, and it sweetens it up just enough that it's not overly sour. It's a good, healthy lemonade. And you don't need all the other kinds of sugar, or you don't need packaged, lemonade drink mixes. Really, those are the three ingredients that you need. And it tastes amazing. And lemon is an excellent tool to detox. And so it helps clean out all of the things as well. So,
Mhm.
likewise with water, lemonade is an excellent product to use for that as well.
Do you count that as water, as part of your water intake, if you're adding the stevia and lemon juice to it?
As I'm getting closer, yes, I do, because it's not that far from just water, right? The more you modify it, yeah. So I would not count anything like coffee, because although it is water and the grounds, that has caffeine in it, and that kind of does the adverse in that it dehydrates you. It takes the good healthiness in water, and it, as a dehydrant, same with alcohol and the sugar in alcohol, it is an opposing thing. So those two things are not the best choices as far as wanting to clean up the gut and all of that. So those would be some don't do's.
Okay, so
Being
we have,
alcoholic.
let's go back. We have
Yes.
number one, drink water. Number
Yes.
two, reduce the sugar and carbs.
Yes.
What about,
Yes.
and I'm still on number two because I'm on the whole sugar thing. What about something like dried fruit, raisins, and things that are naturally sweet? Where do you put those? Does that inflame also, those kinds of dried fruit?
Right. I would say for some individuals, yes, and for others, no. Everyone's body is different. Everyone's makeup is different. I was highly sensitive at one time to grapes. And so a raisin would have bothered me, and I would have had to not have that because it comes from grape. However, as my gut healed and I was able to get rid of all of that stuff, I later was able to have grapes and raisins, no problem. That time I was not. And so that's how I know that 100% your body changes over time and adapts and heals. And when you are very inflamed and you have a lot of issues going on, like I did, like I said, migraines, joint pain, IBS, a whole list of things, that means my body was in a huge inflammatic state. So there was a ton of foods that were reactive to me at the time. Then later, after I healed everything up, I would individually introduce, and I would try something 3 times to make sure if it caused an issue. And if it did not, I would continue eating it. And then if it started, causing an issue in the future, then I would put it back down again. So it's a literally guessing game constantly. But how we stay more in a homeostasis state is reducing the sugar and the carbohydrates, because they are what cause the issues to go up and up and up.
Gotcha. And so I don't know if you want avoiding caffeine on the list. Do you want that on the list? Like we're doing the top 5 things to do or not do?
Yes, I would say those would be your no's, and you can group them together because they are similar in that way.
Oh, I
They're
see.
dehydrants, yes. So
Okay.
those would be some don't do's. If you're going to do it, I would say limit it to 1, right? Like do it in moderation. So we have those 3. I would say number 4 would be good old fashioned movement. Honestly, just regular old walking. And it can be as like if someone has extra weight on and it's hard for them to be very mobile and nimble, then a 10-minute walk is good. It really is. If you're having issues with inflammation and if someone is overweight or diabetic or whatever, 10 minutes probably could be good for someone in that point. If someone is only, let's say, 20 or so pounds, then 15 to 20 minutes might be plenty. But if someone is reasonably within 12 pounds or so of maybe their body's ideal weight, then it would require a little bit more time, and a little bit more exercise to keep that continuous movement going. But it can be as simple as literally just walking. And so if someone were to run or do something more cardiovascular, that will help. Now, the other thing as women we need to remember is the importance of muscle building and
Mhm.
lifting weights, because that does also go a very long way in helping reduce weight and inflammation, and at the same time building the muscle in our bones and strengthening things. The last one would be, more important than not, sleep. People don't give sleep enough credit. And the reason is because that restorative period is when your body regenerates. And that is when they say the gut actually has time to start healing. It takes time, and it takes no stuff going in, and it takes the digestive process time to move without food going in. So, time is really important for our gut to start healing. And so, the more sleep we can get, not only does that affect us in lots of other ways, and we're going to talk about that in a minute with our mental health and our all that on the brain end, but our body as well. It just needs time.
Very good.
And for
Love it.
adults, yeah. And for adults, it would be 7 to 9 hours is what they recommend. For children, it definitely would be, 10 to 12. So,
Yeah, so good. Such really relatively easy things, inexpensive things that we can do. Water,
yes,
exercising, simple walking, not
yes,
difficult to do some of these things. So thank you for that list.
yes.
That's so very helpful. And yes, let's move on into the mental or brain connection. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about the vagus nerve a little bit?
So I like talking about this. However, I feel like sometimes it makes people shy away, like it sounds nerdy and scary and all that stuff. The best way to kind of think about it, when you're imagining your brain and the brain's purpose and the brain itself, it is a muscle and an organ just like everything else in our body. And just like all of those things, what it needs is water, it needs sleep. It needs all of the same things, the vitamins and the minerals. So that's why there is an absolute correlation with the gut and the brain, because it is also the same mechanism. It works exactly like all of the others. And so it doesn't take a lot of knowledge for us to realize what we can do to make that healthier as well. When we eat well, exercise, drink water, and get sleep, like that's the foundational formula. And on my podcast, that's exactly the kinds of things that I talk about. The foundational formula is super simple. In our society today, we don't honor ourselves enough to do it regularly enough. And so therefore, it it kind of over time goes to the wayside.
Right.
And so our, vagus nerve and all of the other components in the brain essentially over time start to lose their muscular power, atrophy, right? If you think of a muscle, if you don't work it out, it atrophies. Our brain is exactly the same way. The things that we can do, and they tell this often to older adults, are, doing puzzles and doing, small little activities to keep our brains stimulated, constantly learning, listening to podcasts, things like that, that really help us stay with it and work out our muscle are how we do it. And when we think of it like a muscle, like all of our others, it's pretty easy to take care of.
That's so good and so easy to understand. And thank you for kind of de-nerding that for us.
Yes.
But I can remember though, Paula, when I discovered that there were neurons in your gut, that just blew my mind. I
Mm,
thought, what? There are neurons in your gut, and there are a lot of them, because they even call it like your your second brain,
Yes.
that whole tract. And it's just
Yes.
fascinating to me. And then I want to take just a moment to also segue into, and you mentioned this earlier a moment ago, about you begin to notice clarity of mind. And, the Bible tells us
Mm.
that we actually have the mind of Christ. And I know that's a teeny
Mhm.
bit different, but as we're taking care of this temple where the Holy Spirit resides,
Yes.
the thought that we can have the mind of Christ in all of this is just mind-boggling to me. And
Mhm.
could you even maybe connect the dots between our physical health and
Mhm.
well-being and the spiritual side of things?
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite topics, mainly because he gave us our body, our brain, our gut, all of our things, right? We know this because of this, and he created us in his image. He knows what is best. And although he has laid out for us in his manual, our guidebook, we don't always read between the lines, and we don't always pick up on what one might consider to be obvious. The book of Daniel is actually the best diet you could ever go on. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Rick Warren, the Daniel Plan. And it is a wealth of information. He is a pastor in California, and he learned a lot about the book of Daniel and eating the way that they did back in the Bible. It is simplistic. It is easy to follow ish. I would say not necessarily in today's lifestyle, but if you consume those things, you will be healthy. Let's put it that way. In today's world, it's a little harder to pull off. In congruence with itself, with each other, every part is made up of other parts that are to work together for good, right? We are to be one in mind, body, and spirit. That is how he created us. And so we are actually honoring him when we take care of our body that he
Mhm.
gifted us with. And like you said, temple. It is a temple in which we should treat with respect and honor. And by sleeping and drinking water and filling it with healthy nutrients, that is how we are, and exercising, that is how we are honoring that temple. We're taking care of it. If it were our house, that's how we would be cleaning it up, right? That is what he designed for us to do. What happens in today's world is we accidentally forget in our busyness. It's not on purpose. We don't do it to be dishonoring to God. I'm not sitting here eating loaves of bread to upset my God. I'm not. I'm not thinking. What we can do is be cognizant. What we can do is read and research. What we can do is think a little bit outside of ourselves at the moment and think a little longer term as far as
Mhm.
health and wellness in
Mhm.
mind, in body, and in spirit. Because he is the three in one. He created us in that way with those three things in mind. And
Hmm.
when we do that, we're honoring him.
I love that. And I love how you've tied all of this together. I want to just briefly, as we're wrapping up here, Paula, look at your book. I have a copy of Phenomenal Mom, and there's a page, I'll just share that page even, that actually talks about what you're talking about. This, you use a star. I'll explain it or describe it. You use a star with 5 tips,
Mm-hmm.
and one would be physical health, and that's what we're talking about, the brain gut health, taking good care of our temple. You go into emotional health, and we're talking about, we don't want to just focus on one of these star tips. We want all of them, this holistic approach, because there's a connection anyway between your physical health and your emotional health. And then you have educational health, spiritual health again, and
Mm-hmm.
then financial health. So
Mm-hmm.
just real quick, just for a plug for your book, do you want to say a few things about what made you write this book?
Sure. So this was my journey as a mom, and these were 5 aha lessons that I was learning kind
Mm.
of at the same time. Around when my girls were preschoolers, I had stopped teaching full time. I was teaching part time, and I was working at a health club. And when that health club closed, I got life coached. I was like, what am I going to do now? I still knew I wanted to teach and I was still teaching part time, but I had to kind of figure all that out. In the meantime, I was struggling with my health. I was, kind of coming out of a lot of brain fog that I had with my kids. And again, that was poor gut health. A lot of moms who don't, who have had babies and whatever, don't get a lot of great sleep and maybe aren't eating the best. They're on the go. They suffer from brain fog. This is a common occurrence. These are the kinds of things that were becoming like in my face ahas. And I was realizing, oh my goodness, this is all related. And then I took a Dave Ramsey class at church, and he mentioned these 5 things in his
Wow.
book on finance. And I was like, whoa, God woke me up in the middle of the night with a vision. And it was this star. And he said, you are to be a teacher and you are to teach these things. And
Mm.
I was like, what? What? I am no expert. I was just starting to learn. But also know that he qualifies the called, and he gave me that call. That's what that knock was. He was calling me out of sleep to start teaching women how to live healthier, more balanced lives. And when they do that, they are honoring God in mind, body, spirit. And that is that wellness, that complete picture that we're talking about. My finances were getting better. I was learning how to, do all of that stuff. I was learning how to, make connections between the gut and the brain. And I was learning things and I was growing and I was investing in myself.
I bet.
And that was what pushed me aside and even beyond, is because I started putting my needs higher up on the list, realizing, whoa, I have work to do. And God was directly speaking to me, telling me, this is what you're going to do. And I just started honoring Him, taking one baby step at a time, one step in front of the other. And that's what led me on the journey. But then after my mom passed in 2017 was when the book was like, that's it. I cannot let this sit written. I just couldn't let it sit on the shelf any longer. I knew at that point God was saying to me, no longer is this sitting in your computer. It is doing no good here. You, my friend, need to do this. And I just had to find kind of the right format. And then I read a book that was that aha format that told a little bit of her story and a little bit of teaching and a little bit of reflection. And that, once I had that format, I was like, oh, this is great. And I typed that book up and sent it out. I did it in a month.
Wow. That's
But
amazing.
I knew, yes, but it was all from God. And it was all just simple lessons that seemed too big and too, let's just say, sciency, right?
Right.
But I knew that moms like me needed that information. And if I could teach it to them in a simple way that they could understand and apply to their life, then they would feel successful and they could start taking those baby steps. And
Mm.
that was the journey I was going on. And I was like, okay, this is my job. This is what I'm going to be doing. So it is, yeah. And the book was birthed in May. That was when it hit Amazon. I've been, selling it since. I did a little Black Friday sale and gave some copies away for free, which was awesome.
Nice.
And I think twice a year, that's going to be my plan because women need this book that badly. It is really helpful. And it's not just for moms. I do want to be clear about that. This book is for women of all ages and stages, specifically when you're going through a time of transition. And the reason why I like it for that is it gives you the opportunity to do a little bit of reflecting. So I do a teaching talking point, I do a personal story, and then I ask a question. And I did that very intentionally. So it's not about me. It's never, ever been about me. Has wanted me to use this as a resource from the beginning That's why it wasn't the Paula Tobey book. Like, no
Right.
one's going to buy that except for 5 people in my family. Okay. Like,
Right.
it's not about that. It's about me using what God taught me to enrich and build and care for and love on other women to health and wellness in a new way. That's
Mm.
what it's about.
Amen. That's wonderfully said. So how can everyone reach out to you, Paula, or get a hold of your book? I know you mentioned Amazon, but where should they go?
Yes. Yes. So it is on Amazon. It's also on my website, and that's just my name, Paula Tobey, PaulatObey.com. That's simple. And I offer life and health transformation coaching. I offer groups and one-on-one. I'm building a community here in January for newer entrepreneurs that are looking to put themselves a little higher on the list, because, it's that woman who's driven and has an agenda and a busy life that doesn't always make the time for her.
Right.
And she is the person that I want to honor and help and guide and mentor. I am building a community for women entrepreneurs to do a little bit more personal development and growth and focusing on them. And again, it's just these 5 simple things that we focus on. They're not hard. It's not rocket science. It seems like it is, but when you break it down, it's very simple. And again, when we do that, we're honoring not only ourselves, but our creator who put us here in the first place.
That's good. I love the community aspect, because tackling some of those 5 different issues, it's so nice to have accountability and encouragement, as you're all kind of running in the same direction. So thank you
That's right.
so much, Paula,
Yes.
for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. This is wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I have to say, it's so wonderful to find other women, other podcasters, and people out there, doing the same kinds of thing, building up other people and, helping them to spread their messages. I do believe that that is what God created this for. He wants us to be in community with one another. And this kind of community is exactly the place that I want to be. So I'm just so appreciative to be here.
And that's a wrap, Brain Changer. And listen, if you like what you hear, would you leave us a 1 to 2 sentence review at Apple Podcasts? Share the link with a friend or tag me on your share on social media. It would mean the world to me and would help us to keep shining the light of Christ and sharing the good news to others who are in need of encouragement. Please visit us on our website at choosetothink.co. That's with the number 2, choosetothink.co, to get on our monthly newsletter list. And if you need a guest speaker for your next women's retreat or church event, I'm your gal. Email me at choosetothink@gmail.com, and that's with the number 2, choosetothink@gmail.com. Finally, I offer limited free mentoring sessions each month where you and I can chat to help you develop a strategy for your thoughts in any area of your life. I'm a certified life coach and I have something to share. Visit choosetothink.co and click on mentoring for more details. Also, keep in mind that the messages on this show are for informational and educational purposes only. Please consult your medical doctor for all medical issues. Thank you again for tuning in. God bless you.